back to Talent Hub Talk. Another quarter down, and this time we close out the 25-26 financial year in Australia. Looking over the stats for the quarter, it is pretty depressing, unfortunately. Job adverts down 12% in Australia from Q1 to Q2, and down 23% in New Zealand over the same period. When you dig deeper, looking at Q2 in 2025 compared to Q2 in 2026, the stats look even worse. It's fair to say the market sentiment is pretty low and has been for a while. And although I would love to paint a much more positive outlook, it's hard to argue with the stats. Through this quarter, we did see a spike in contract requirements. The Salesforce engineering space is where we saw a lot of the contract work, but unlike in quarters gone by, this demand wasn't coming from public sector and was actually driven by some of our clients in the private space, preferring to bolster their internal teams with contractors rather than hiring full-time headcount. I wish I didn't have to mention redundancies at all, but it's fair to say that there were a number of people impacted last quarter across the ANZ Salesforce market. We saw decent numbers of people affected within the consulting space, as well as a handful that we heard of across end customer businesses. We also saw some large projects coming towards the end, which saw some candidates coming into the market after a long time. There was a noticeable shift this quarter that when companies were hiring, they were eager to find people who had been tinkering with AI in their own time. This doesn't mean just looking for people with Agentforce experience, but looking for people who are exploring ways of using different AI tools in their workflow. I'm really encouraging people to explore this if they haven't already, so checking out a podcast we recently released with Leo Alves would be a good place to start. What I will say is that even though job numbers have been trending down, there are still some incredibly difficult roles to fill in the market. This is a mixture of clients having high expectations, the pool of available talent still lacking quality in certain areas, or a greater expectation for days per week in the office for some clients, which is still a turn-off for many candidates. I can't just discuss the difficulties we've seen in the market, so for a sprinkling of positivity, I will say that we're still hearing of some major pieces of work when we speak to some of our consulting clients. We have heard that there are some big tenders out there, and we've also been supporting a client who is starting a greenfield Salesforce implementation in Melbourne, committing to 5 years' worth of Salesforce licenses. So there are some positive signs, and let's hope they continue. We move into financial year 26-27 with hope and optimism, but we expect plenty of challenges along the way. If we can help you in any way, please do not hesitate to reach out.